March 10th, 2019 was the opening day kickoff for the New Generation Football League. Its first game was between the then New York Lancers defeating the Indianapolis Cyclones 27-17. The league has changed a lot since then. The Lancers moved to New Haven just weeks after the beginning of the season. It was the Wild West, and there were 8 gunslinging signal callers leading their franchises into the season. I will tell their stories today. This is Time Machine. Let's start this off with the first quarterback to take a snap and the first to get a win. Christian Polanco. Polanco had a very up and down start to his career in the NGFL. He was what he was. Nothing very flashy about him, but he got the job done, for his first season at least. The New Haven Lancers were able to make it to the championship game and nearly change the narrative of the league before it even began. Polanco had more chances than his opponents, but he wasn't able to win when it mattered the most. Unfortunately, this is the story of his career so far. Polanco hasn't been a driving force in many wins, and even when he is cooking, it still isn't good enough. Polanco spent his first 3.5 seasons with the Lancers before being released in favor of this other Season 1 quarterback. Connor Manning was the face of the Indianapolis Cyclones while they were in existence. The team that eventually became the Portland Cougars didn't find a ton of success, but it was their quarterback that was the shining star on the team. The Cyclones finished Season 1 with a 4-5 record, just missing the playoffs. The Cyclones never made the playoffs or even had a winning record under him, making his statistical achievements largely irrelevant. Manning was released before Season 4 after new ownership moved the team to Oakland, but Manning found a bit of a career resurgence in New Haven, having 4,032 yards, third in the league only to the MVP and the man that replaced him in Oakland, DeAndre Washington. He also had 26 touchdowns and 20 interceptions while playing half the season, getting to the team to 8-8 and making the playoffs. This still wasn't enough for ownership as he hit the open market and hasn't been signed to a new team. Next up, I'm going to talk about the man that was first billed as Nick Mollineaux Jr. of the Green Bay Wolfpack. Mollineaux's career started out as bad as one could ever think, being the man that led the infamous 0-9 team. The definition of a streaky player, Mollineaux had some amazing games followed by some of the worst performances of the year, not to mention his tendencies to throw interceptions. Much like Polanco, he was shipped off mid-season, although his was only after 2.5 seasons. He was sent to Tokyo where it was more of the same. Season 3 was probably his best year as he made the playoffs and got his team to a conference title, but Nick threw 3 picks in a losing effort. After a disappointing Season 4 in Tokyo, Nick received a quiet market with his only offer being from the Firebirds. As of today, the Firebirds are 2-2, and it seems like it's more of the same for Nick and his quest to become a franchise quarterback. The career of our next quarterback is a tragic one to say the least. When the Wichita Pride were tasked with building their team, they went to the same family for quarterback, running back, and head coach. Our subject was a 37-year-old journeyman named Chad Smith. He'd been playing quarterback for a long time and was since past his prime, but who better to lead 20-year-old Cade Smith than his father? The season went really well for the Pride, getting to 6-3, which was second best in the league. Chad wasn't the focal point of the offense, but he was reliable. While they did lose to the Lancers in the playoffs, there was a hope of getting back to the postseason and grabbing a championship before Chad retired, but it was not to be. After suiting up in a preseason game for the newly rebranded Yakima Yeti, Chad Smith was involved in a fatal car crash. The league was stunned by the news, and ever since, it seemed like wherever the former Pride go, they just can't escape the ghost of Chad and find a franchise quarterback. The league now gives away the Chad Smith Memorial Man of the Year award for a player that goes above and beyond in work for his community. The career of Jake Lesnar is a what-if scenario that might be getting its conclusion this year. Lesnar was named the starting quarterback for the Richmond Renegades for Season 1 and started only 2 games for them. There was concerns early about his character since he was a known drug abuser, and sure enough, he was suspended from the league for 5 games for breaking the substance abuse policy. Lesnar was released from the team in favor of the man that led them to their first championship, Alex Dar. Lesnar retired from the game of football, and the league helped him remove drugs from his life. After a lot of work, he remained drug-free for the whole of Season 4 before attempting to make a comeback for Season 5. He was signed by his former team that had moved twice since his departure and hasn't missed a step, keeping the team in contention at the time of this recording. Whatever he does on the field, you cannot deny the greatness of his story and the hope it brings to others that deal with addiction. And now the most forgotten quarterback of the bunch, Rapid City's Day 1 starter Mason Jackson. Rapid City is known as the town Hugo Zachary built, but it was Jackson that laid the foundation. In Jackson's 1 season as the Falcons quarterback, he had a solid year, but the team only mustered a 3-6 record at the end of it. Jackson ended up in the expansion draft where he was snapped up by the Omaha Marshals, thinking they had just found a franchise quarterback. We now know that the Marshals never had success with Jackson, even though he continued to be one of their best players. A combined 16-23 in his 3 Marshall seasons wasn't good no matter what his stat line looked like. He was shipped to Tokyo to be their next savior, and that too hasn't been all it was supposed to be. Jackson has the talent to succeed, and maybe he finds success in Tokyo, but if his first 4 years are any indication, it will be one tough road for the Titans. These last 2 quarterbacks have been their team starters since day 1, and it would be crazy to think otherwise. The Grizzlies signed Malcolm McDaniels as their starter, and he was exactly what they thought they were getting. He was 7-2 as a rookie, throwing 2,632 yards and 17 touchdowns in just 9 games. His main problem is what followed. He lost in his first playoff game, and every one after that. The Season 4 Grizzlies got a playoff win, but Middlebrooks was on the sidelines with an injury. The Grizzlies on paper have always been the team to beat and have had some great seasons under Middlebrooks, but no matter what they do, they just can't get the wins when it counts. Whether this is Middlebrooks' problem or something else isn't mine to say, but like Mason Jackson, Middlebrooks has the stats of a great player, but the key wins just aren't there. And time has seemingly caught up with the Grizzlies, so time will tell if he is their quarterback going forward. And finally, we have the most decorated quarterback of the bunch, Travis Matthews. Matthews was the first player allocated in the first ever draft. The Crabs' first season was one of disappointment, as they were 1-9 with a roster that had future stars all over it. Matthews was good, but the team around him didn't produce like they would in future seasons. That quickly became a footnote in history, as the very next season the Crabs would overhaul their roster on their way to winning the league championship. Matthews threw 5 touchdowns in that game, proving once again why he was the first pick. Season 3 saw Matthews grab his first MVP and his second championship. Almost an opposite of the Grizzlies, Matthews and the Crabs haven't dominated in the regular season, but when the playoffs come around, they find a way to win. Matthews can't be given all the credit, but he has been a very clutch player in the past. A new scheme has hurt the Crabs in their Season 5 quest for a title, but they have proven they can come back from bad games, and who knows what's next for the legacy of Matthews and the organization. So that's the first 8 NGFL quarterbacks. There are plenty more league stories that I could tell if you want more, so let us know by hitting that like button. It will be most appreciated. But until next time, allow me to look back while you push forward.